How old were you when you started doing the glass work?
I was in my 70s. This is our honey house. This is our sales room. And we come in the sales room. And Diane's in here. Oh my goodness.
Welcome.
I'll leave it
I
to
hear you want a jar of honey.
When I was 21, I was in Vancouver, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And that was the beginning of a 3-year trip around the world where I went by land and sea. I was lucky to get a job in Israel, and later on I got a job in Cyprus, working on the world's largest geodesic dome that covered radar that went out all the way out to past Gibraltar and up into Russia and through the Middle East. And then I went back to Europe and got myself ready to go to Asia, so I hitchhiked, going from England to North Africa, and I hitchhiked across North Africa. And then I went through Turkey and Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan, and I spent 8 months in India, and then went to the Far East and worked my way to Japan, where I spent another 6 months teaching English, working in the movies. One of the ways that foreigners could make money while you were traveling was to be an extra in a movie, and so I did that quite a few places. I did it in Algiers, and I did it in Egypt, and then I did it again quite a lot in Japan, because there wasn't a lot of foreigners in Japan in the 60s. I got roles in a variety of movies, some a little risque movies, and I guess the biggest movie I was in was I had a role in the Japanese version of Dr. Zhivago, and I got murdered. But it was good fun, and I made lots of good money, enough to be able to live in Japan and get back to North America on another ship. When I was living in Tangiers, a couple of young American women showed me this book by an Indian philosopher named J. Krishnamurti, and I was really blown away. I'd never read any kind of Eastern philosophy, and I heard that this man was still alive and lived part of the year in Europe and part of the year in outside of New Delhi. And so I got to hang out with Krishnamurti for a few weeks in New Delhi. Reading his works gave me a different perspective, I think, on life and just what was possible. That gave me quite a lot of confidence, I think. I had some kind of confidence, but I didn't really believe in it. So I traveled around India. I spent time living in Goa, on the beach with the fishermen, and spent a few months in Nepal, living mostly in the Kathmandu Valley. I had a great experience there teaching English to Tibetan nuns that had just escaped from Tibet. I was very endeared to the Tibetan community, and how wonderful they were able to adapt to having nothing and to have lost their country and their families, and yet they were happy and willing to change and learn, and it was a really great experience for me to do that. I can show you my muse.
I thought I was your muse.
Well, you're number 2 muse. This is my beam muse. So the dress is from a the top of an old well from 1902, made in Oregon. This is a shell from the Korean War. This is an anchor, and the rest of these pieces are old pieces of farm equipment. And their eyes light up, and these are bee smokers. So it's like my little bee muse. And this is the new art gallery. It's called the Honey House Gallery. Ta-da! Welcome. I will turn the lights on. My abstract paintings and a variety of glass and a variety of my wooden pieces that I've cut up and reassembled. Assemblage. Wooden pieces that were in the last show that I had in Armstrong. They all turn. So I work on a piece of clear glass, and then I added the blue to the clear glass, and then this darker blue is a powdered glass. So I built up the powdered glass, and then these are glass stringers. I stood the glass stringers into the powder inside of the kiln, and then closed the door, and the heat melted the stringers over the powder, and the powder had a different temperature as the temperature rose, and it shattered this outer blue glass, the bigger blue glass. And so when I opened the kiln, I thought, oh, and then when I took it out and looked at it, I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have planned that, right? The essence of that accident. And then what happened was, as the temperature increased, it fused it all together. Yeah, it's a one in a million, or it's a one off. Like, there'll never be another one. I work on a piece of clear glass, and then I figure out roughly my design, and then I choose the colors that I want, and then I create a design and pattern with the pieces of glass that I've cut out, and then I put them together, and then I work on to the clear glass, and then it's put into a kiln, it's fired and cooled slowly, and then I take it out and I see whether I'm happy with the design or not. If I'm not quite happy, I can add more pieces to it and fire it again. I always like to check it with the light and just see how the light shines through it, and because really what we're doing is we're using color to capture light at the same time, because everything is really about light in a way. And light is like the wind, it's elusive, but we know that it's there. So there's different molds that you can use. It was flat at one time, and I've used a mold to shape it. This particular piece I think has been in the kiln 3 times to end up getting what I wanted. And it's the same with the bigger pieces, my pieces that are 2x2. It's a great process. It's really old glass. We think of sand as just being this sort of tiny hard stuff, but if you get it hot enough, it runs like water, and kind of the magic of substance, material, and heat. It's the same with metal in a way. If you get metal hot enough, it runs like water too. So it's all a matter of heat and time and making the little molecules dance at a higher rate. As a young person, I was always whittling and carving sticks, and I lived near a forest, and I'd go into the forest and I'd build forts. I started building really primitive kind of stick forts, and I used to make bridges and put sugar cubes in different places so the ants would have to cross the bridge to get the sugar cubes. And the essence of art is really doing it. It's the making of it, and that's a magpie. uh, there's always that fear of failure or not being sure where you're going, but that's part of the charm and part of the wonder of getting into areas where you're uncomfortable. I've also been lucky over the years to be mentored by artists that I appreciated that their work and that they were willing to take me in as either as an apprentice or give me a space in their studios and let me work with their tools. I feel like I'm on a roll right now. Been working in a blacksmith shop with a man named John Vivian, and I do the layout and put the pieces together, and he does the welding, and we work really well together. We work fast, and we've created a nice relationship. I just finished a piece that's 16 feet tall, and I'm working on another piece that's 26 feet. And I wanted to do that, 20, 25 years ago, but it seemed like life just gave me the time to do smaller things. So now working large is really, really fun. I really like working large, and hope to do more of that in the next 25 years. Abstract art. It's it's the chickenness of life, and here comes our chickens that our 5 girls that are very curious about what is abstract and open field art. My art chickens. Look it. Zeba's gonna photograph you. Look it, isn't that good? Wouldn't you like to have some of that? Huh? This is not abstract art. This is open field. But in this you could see a bird or a face, or you could see candy. I don't know. It's all a mystery to me. About a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. What are we gonna do with life? When I was in Japan, I actually got married. And I had met this American woman named Kay Lee. We came back home on a ship that was taking Japanese immigrants to Brazil, and they dropped us off in LA, and we worked our way back to Canada, and in that time Katie got pregnant, and so we had this wonderful little baby, Katrina. I didn't have any money, so I got a job with an organization that was looking after kids that nobody else wanted in the province. They were traditionally, if children got into trouble, they were sent to a place called juvie, or juvenile detention. So this was a society that started a treatment center. That job morphed into about 10 years of working in mental health. In that time I had another beautiful daughter named Sarah, we moved to the Okanagan because there was an opportunity for me to help start to change an old summer camp into a permanent residency for both girls and boys that were in our care. At the same time, I was looking for land and also thinking about how I could make a living off the land, and that's when I went and worked with a beekeeper. This period of time, Katie and I went our own ways, then had to go and do various other jobs around the province to try and save some money so I could pay for this land that I had found. So that was a big, quite a few years of transition for me, up until I met Diane and came to the land.
He was very intriguing, handsome, fun, sexy. No, he was great. I fell madly in love with him.
In the meantime, we had a little boy named Oliver, and so we moved into the shack, and then we built 2 different sections of the honey house. So we spent about 10 or 12 years, every 2 years, doing an addition. I need to go to one of those spas. What do you want? Huh? What are you doing here? Huh? In Japan, I met a group of people that were working with Gary Snyder, who is an American poet who had gone to Japan to study Zen and lived in a monastery for quite a few years, and came out and joined and got a group of Japanese writers together, and they formed the first underground Japanese newspaper, and so I was involved with that for a while, and brought back the first copy to North America, to the San Francisco Oracle, and hung out with those people in San Francisco for a while. By that time it was 1968, and there was a whole kind of youth rebellion starting in the 60s, and there was lots of music and poetry and people that wanted social change, especially in race relations and women's liberation, and a different kind of appreciation for the planet and for ecosystems, and how if we didn't start preserving some of the things, we were going to lose them. You know, things such as whales and old growth forests, and so I was on the fringe of that as well. All the pieces of exotic wood that I was finding in garage sales and secondhand stores and thrift shops, I noticed that there was a lot of hardwoods, and some of them were really exotic, like monkey wood and teaks and ironwood, and that they were coming from Asia and South America, even the Pacific Islands, and forests are being depleted for our sort of colonial advantage of having nice knickknacks in our houses that we use for a while and then disregard them and throw them out. Or I had wanted to do an installation around the abuse of forests in emerging cultures, and how that affects the people and their environment and their agriculture and their economies. What I do is I find the pieces and I cut them up and I rejoin them, what I called wooden koans, like a Zen koan, where you have to sit and look at it, try and figure out where I'm coming from. And so all those, things that when you're young you think about, manufacturing them in our minds, but if you follow the dream, they materialize in some way. Maybe not in the way that you originally thought them, but for me, I seem to be able to manifest some of my ideas.
You'd better get it while you can. You better get it while you can. If you wait too long, it'll all be gone, and you'll be sorry then. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, it's the same for a woman or a man. From the cradle to the crypt, it's a mighty short trip, so you better get it while you can. From the cradle to the crypt, it's a mighty short trip, so you better get it while you can.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum.
Roll back the stone. You gotta 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 roll back the stone. Back the stone.